Hey everybody, we are back to do our production update for this month. Today is December 18th. We're doing the production update a little bit early because we're going for the holidays. But if you're watching this, it'll probably be January 2026. So welcome to the new year. We have a lot of updates for December, January. First and foremost, as you guys probably have read in our previous blog updates, we've had some issues with UPS and things getting missing, things getting lost, tariff issues, customs issues, paperwork, all that sort of stuff. A lot of those things have been resolved over the last couple of months, but there are still some things that aren't perfect. We also heard that a lot of customers are moving to FedEx because they have apparently less issues. And it was funny because we had a couple people from UPS come to visit to tell us, hey, we're working on this. We're going to fix this stuff. We're going to make it right. Yeah, we had some high-level UPS execs come to visit. Sean Griffin, who's the president of UPS Canada, Dean Tabakos, who's the director for business development at UPS, and then Frank Perez, who's the UPS president for the Americas region. And he also does the healthcare and supply chain stuff, engineering. And obviously our most favorite human being in the world, Todd McCracken, who's our UPS rep. Apparently we're now one of the largest, if not the largest, customer for UPS. I guess we just shipped so much stuff now that they came to say, hey, these are all the things we're working on. Yeah, and so what they are working on includes trying to reduce the issues for the customs declarations. If you guys don't know, back in spring 2025, Donald Trump got rid of the $800 US de minimis. So prior to this, any shipment below $800 US going into the US could clear without any customs and duties and taxes. Now they've gotten rid of that. So every single shipment going into the US has to have custom forms, and then there's a tariff that applies to the shipment, or duties and taxes that apply to that shipment. That made the amount of customs that UPS and all the shipping companies have to do go from jump by 95% or something, or maybe not that much. It just had to, they were just slammed. And because this custom process is pretty human driven, it's very hard to scale. Apparently they've used AI to automate 95% of the process, so the time it takes for things to clear through customs is a lot less. However, there's still that 5%, and they're also working on perfecting that last 5%. The other thing that's been causing issues is shipments being held at the border and being sent back. What we learned is that if a shipment has multiple parts, so the AltMill, for example, comes in 3 or 4 or 5 different boxes. If all of those boxes are not on the same truck, US border will basically be nah, we need all the boxes together to clear it, so they send it back. And even if in the whole truck, just one of those boxes is outside of the manifest, outside of the whole unit, regardless of whether it's our stuff or someone else's stuff, then they all get sent back. Sometimes we were sending parts for each shipment out separately. So for example, send the machine out first and the VFD and the spindle after. Wasn't really an us problem, because they would either separate the manifests. So if they only got one part of it, either we would only send it as a single shipment, or UPS would separate them manually, or they would separate them when they receive it, or they would hold it in their warehouse until they were able to collect all the parts together. However, now they've changed it so that if they need to separate the shipments, then they get manifested. They have a sheet or a customs document individually for each part of the shipment. So it doesn't really matter if they travel all together or separately. Apparently that's supposed to solve a lot of the stuff getting sent back. We are still getting stuff sent back. It's not as much as it used to be, but we still have some things happening. It's obviously costed us a lot of money, and I think UPS is working with us to kind of cover those costs. I think for the majority of customers, it's not really going to be something they need to worry about. But part of this production update, just letting everyone know, yeah, it's still kind of something that we're dealing with. Tax registrations. So if you guys also don't know, we're a Canadian company, but we sell a lot to the US. I think probably about 70% of our customers are American. Given that if we hit a certain number of sales in a certain state, we have to pay taxes to that state. Some states we don't charge sales tax for, in some states we do. Now we have like, I think almost 20 states that we have to pay sales tax to, or we just recently registered for a whole bunch more. Yeah, you might notice that you're paying your state sales tax. So maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing, because those sales taxes get put back into your state that you live in, and then it used to build roads and stuff. AltMill 4x8. So yeah, AltMill 4x8 development and production continues to move forward. Not too much going on that end. It's mostly a waiting game, because we've ordered the parts and now we're waiting for them to finish production and for us to start assembling. We've had our beta testers start using and giving us feedback, which is great. Seen some people make cabinets and stuff. There's a couple of other long and short-term testing we're doing, see like how the pinions and racks are doing for long-term testing. Ben showed me the other day under the microscope how the wear patterns look, and they're pretty good. Actually, the funny thing is, like, at a certain point it seems like the wear seems to like be similar regardless of what the hardness of the racks are. But yeah, we're gonna keep continuing to test that to kind of get an idea on how the machine behaves in the long term, at least until like until we start shipping, so we collect as much data as possible. Nathan has been working with the team to design the packaging. We have a new graphic design person working with us now, do all the design for the assembly process and the packaging design. So I think I think our packaging's already been pretty well regarded, but it'll be a step up from there. Closed loop stepper motor. So we also talked about this in the last blog update and previous blog updates, where one, we are working on the new LongMill MK3, and also in between we wanted to work on the electronics to kind of update it to closed loop steppers. There's also a blog page on like everything you need to know about the closed loop steppers, so you can kind of get an idea on like how the closed loop steppers work, what sort of decisions we made on that, how much, you know, performance and all those sort of things. And potentially, if you are a user of a machine that's not built by us, this may be a good kit for adapting the new technology into your machine. We are pulling some of the parts to ship the closed loop stepper motor kits from our existing batch of AltMill parts, and then we're ordering more to kind of top it up. And we also found that one of the batches of the motors had the wrong firmware, so we were able to work with the manufacturer to reprogram and reflash the motors. This kind of gives us an insight on how the closed loop steppers are tuned, and that might be another like improvement to the whole system in like doing our own motor tuning. Johan's done a lot of motor tuning stuff, and also like the initial vetting for all our suppliers, and like built all this testing equipment and testing processes for our motors, for the spindles, the routers, and the stepper motors. So yeah, we have this like very deep domain expertise on motor testing now that I guess we can kind of put into play. Segueing into the LongMill MK3 development, I guess now the machine is like officially in development. We kind of have a timeline, a plan, what kind of machine we're trying to build, so on and so forth. And we've started to order the sample parts to assemble our first batch of beta machines. And yeah, so I guess I can kind of like briefly talk about the LongMill MK3 development. The LongMill MK3 is essentially an updated version of the LongMill MK2. We wanted to address a couple of things that we found were weak points of the LongMill MK3, the LongMill MK2 design, but also keep some of the same philosophies for the LongMill line in general. So in terms of the LongMill, we wanted the LongMill to be the most beginner-friendly but productive machine. And to make something beginner-friendly, we need to make it affordable, easy to put together, and easy to use. I think the LongMill MK2 and the LongMill MK1, especially when it first came out, was sort of pioneers in that case of like being affordable, being a relatively large format. However, now that technology has progressed, we have an opportunity to make those machines even better. So yeah, here are some of the design goals. One is to reduce the part count and the variability. The reason we want to reduce the part count is because there's just less items to assemble for the user. So yeah, the LongMill Mark II and the LongMill Mark I, those were like self-assembly kit machines. That keeps the price down and gives people the opportunity to get an idea on how the machine works. By reducing the number of parts, we can like essentially make the assembly process faster, but also the repair process faster if someone needs to do maintenance or repairs. We also reduce the variability or the number of unique components. That just was an exercise of reusing different components across different parts of the machine. And based on our current BOM, we were able to reduce the number of unique components by 30%. That means less supply chain. Yeah, there's more economies of scale, and yeah, overall can make the machine better value because each component costs less if we buy more of them. The second is to improve the reliability. I think the one thing that really detracts people from getting the hobby CNC machine is like every time they mess something up, like every time they break a bit or every time the project doesn't go as planned. I believe that there's kind of 3 parts that we can change. One is the getting rid of the V wheels. So the new machine will have linear guides. We also are getting rid of the open loop stepper motors. That eliminates lost steps. So either one, the closed loop steppers have more torque, so they can cut through material more easily. But also, if they do lose its position, it will automatically detect it and reset the machine. So you don't have a machine cutting and then lose a step and then start cutting in the wrong area or direction, kind of messing up your part. You can stop the machine and restart it again when it's lost its position. Although this is something that we fixed in the Mark II version, we are going to continue to use the self-adjusting anti-backlash nuts. Prior, like way back, we used to use the nuts that required adjustment over time to keep it from having backlash. We've recently switched to using self-adjusting nuts, so they will compensate itself as it wears down. Those have been proven to be pretty reliable and pretty well received by the community, so we'll keep using that because it's a relatively inexpensive solution for this type of machine, and it's dust-proof and durable and reliable, so yeah, don't need to change what works. We also wanted to make sure that the machine stays affordable. We've made a lot of development on our technical expertise in the production process, especially with the AltMill. When we first started building the AltMill, a lot of those processes were like very hands-on, you know, assembling the linear guides, assembling the Z-axis, all those stuff. We still build a lot of that by hand, but we've implemented a lot of tools. For example, we have like a screw gun that like ejects the screws into the rail. So like, you know, you don't have to pick up the screw and put it in. The production team, like Mike and Zach and Nikila, they've been making more of the machines that do the tapping automatically for like plates and stuff. And so, yeah, we used to like hand tap all these plates. Now they're like kind of like robotically done, which is really awesome. So yeah, we're taking a lot of those like engineering advancements and using them for the LongMill line to reduce the cost to assemble, or at least we're doing more of the assembly ourselves to make it easier for the user to do the final assembly. Yeah, which brings down the cost. And because a lot of the parts are shared between the AltMill and the LongMill, we can also save money on those things. So I think, like, just for context, the cost for us to buy components is about 1/3 of what it would cost like someone to buy a singular part. So yeah, like that's a pretty big deal. And yeah, like the more volume we do, the cheaper the machines can get. So we're kind of strategic on that matter. So yeah, we want to keep the price for the Mark III basically around the same price as the old machines. And I think the old machines were pretty reasonable in price, but the new machines will just be better. There's also a couple of different products and technologies we've developed over the last couple of years that we're going to kind of bundle into the LongMill Mark III. One is the AutoSpin T1, which is the router that we are making that has spindle functionality. You can plug it into your controller, or like either the current LongMill controller or new LongMill controllers, and also other CNC machines. to do speed control automatically through your G-code sender. It also can you can turn it on and off with the software, and also if there's a error or like if the motors stall out and the motor send an error back, which is how the Mark III works, it'll shut the power off on the router, so it won't like keep cutting into whatever material you're cutting into. So it is safer. Yeah, so like reduce the chance of fire, essentially. We also will be including the homing sensors by default. It kind of makes sense because if we're using closed loop steppers, we want people to be able to start from where they had a stall or an issue. You can basically reset and go back to where we're going. That functionality already works in the AltMill, so it's not a new thing. Yeah, we're also working on some of the new electronics. Right now, the SLB EXT and the whole like closed loop stepper motor system is frankly pretty expensive. When we launched the closed loop stepper kit, because this is like all parts used for the AltMill is like just at a higher price point. So we use components that are also like maybe like a higher grade or higher power. The LongMill is obviously a smaller and less demanding machine. So we also feel like the electronics can be engineered to match with the performance expectations and bring down the price. So yeah, we're working on a new board. Eliminates a lot of the onboard stuff that we found that people don't necessarily use that much of, and also kind of change the architecture of certain things to eliminate the need for certain inputs and outputs. We still want to keep it as like versatile as the current SLB, but bring down the price, kind of adjust the architecture of how, like for example, how the power gets handled, and that should reduce the cost of the board and the overall electronic system. And the overall electronic system makes up almost half the cost of the machine, and so like any cost reduction and improvement on the electronic side is very important in making this product as beginner friendly and affordable as possible. Right now we're just working on the manufacturing for the rails and the steel components. That'll kind of get us to the point where we can build our working prototypes, test them. We may have like a beta testing program, so keep an eye out for that. LongMill Mark III. I think we will have a launch in spring as well, probably in like March or something. So yeah, we have a couple months, not too far away from now. The AutoSpin T1, this has been a project that's been like on and off for quite a long time, especially with the certification stuff and the manufacturing things. We are excited to let everyone know that the production is complete. Now they're on their way here. We are expecting them to arrive in January. Nathan and I are working on how we're gonna do the launch, but it's imminent, and we're excited to finally have this product because I think it's very cool, especially for the entry-level hobbyists. I think that anyone using a Makita will see good value in a product like this. And as far as I'm aware, this is the only router that you can control the speed of electronically, like right off the shelf. And it's like plug and play, and it's amazing. We're excited to be sharing this. If the launch video and content comes out, we can put it in the blog. If not, make sure to check out our social media, stay subscribed to our YouTube channel, and sign up for our emailing list. There's a lot of other stuff happening in January that I haven't talked about because it's a little bit early in this, like it's December 18th today, so we still have almost 2 weeks. Basically, we still have 2 weeks left of December. So this is kind of an early December, so I don't have updates on this yet, but the certified VFDs, they are also coming. I believe they're expected to arrive in January. We have another 900 computers that are also expected to arrive like end of January, I think. So yeah, with all of that, we have a lot of parts coming in. We ordered another batch of 1,200 AltMills, 4x4s and 2x4s. Whatever you didn't hear from this month, we'll put it in January's update. February's update. Thanks for watching, and then Happy New Year. It's gonna be a fun one.